It's that time again. The annual conference of the American Society of Ag Consultants, otherwise known as ASAC, is going to be held in Fort Myers, Florida, this November 4th and 5th. Kurt Covington is one of 9 professionals who will address the conference. The other speakers who will cover a wide range of topics represent Florida Farm Bureau, Florida Citrus Commission, University of Tennessee Institute of Agriculture, National Ag Law Center, Risk Mitigators and Advisors, Tyler Associates, as well as the lead economist for dairy at CoBank, and myself, Chrissy Wozniak from North American Ag. The day and a half of presentations will be followed by ag tours on Tuesday afternoon at Echo Farms, one of my favorite places here in Fort Myers. Attendees will experience farming at its most creative, with unique demonstrations, plants, and techniques being used to help farmers and urban gardeners in developing countries. A second tour at Echo will showcase simple technologies that can improve food, water, and shelter for millions of people. A third tour of a hydroponic grower is also being planned. For more information and to register, visit www.agconsultants.org. That's www.agconsultants.org. See you there. I'm excited to share some information with you about a company called Lasso. Lasso is a software platform that helps cattle farmers receive real dollars and recognition that they deserve for decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. With Lasso, it's easier than ever to input and manage the data needed for applications and forms, faster to get verified for your sustainable practices, and find upfront or recurring funding for greenhouse gas emissions reduction. For on-farm data collection and management, Lasso removes the headache of time-consuming and tedious data entry. Now it takes hours, even days, to collect and input all the data that you need, for example, to get paid or get compliant. With Lasso, it only requires a few clicks as Lasso plugs into existing on-farm management systems to replace that manual work. Even with data on hand, are you still not sure about what the best option is for your farm to reduce emissions? Lasso is here to recommend the best carbon reduction practices for your specific financial, operational, and environmental goals. For verification, Lasso removes the paperwork and complexity of working with third-party verifiers and project developers. Lasso handles this paperwork and process of getting your sustainable practices verified by trusted agencies to receive the credits you deserve. Finally, for funding, Lasso removes the barriers to accessing tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars in monthly funding. Lasso matches you to eligible government or private grants, offsets, or other sources of funding to reward you for your work. With your approval, Lasso will apply on your behalf and keep you updated on your funding status. If you're already participating in sustainability programs, thinking about doing so, or wanting to learn more, Lasso is your partner to support you. They work tirelessly to help farmers get credit and funding for their good stewardship practices to protect their legacy for generations to come. If you're interested, go to www.joinlasso.com or contact the team at contact@joinlasso.com or call 408-256-1098. That's 408-256-1098 for a free consultation. Welcome to the North American Ag Spotlight. I'm Chrissy Wozniak. My guest today helps run a multi-generational dairy farm where they produce award-winning Wisconsin cheese. And anyone who knows me knows I have a weakness for Wisconsin and its cheese. So I needed to have this brilliant young woman on Ag Spotlight to talk about how her family is building this legacy. I'd like to welcome the sales and marketing manager of Crave Brothers Farmstead Cheese, Roseanne Crave. Welcome, Roseanne, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So I met you at World Dairy Expo this fall through mutual friends, and I was really impressed by your family's story and what you guys do and how it's a little bit different. So it's never easy to operate a multi-generational business, let alone in an industry that depends on weather, animals, razor-thin margins, but your family has proved that it can be done. So can you start out by telling me about Crave Brothers Farmstead Cheese, where it came from, and where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So we are a dairy farm and cheese factory located in Waterloo, Wisconsin, which is about 30 minutes from Madison, an hour from Milwaukee. So a pretty prime location, if you ask me.
Yes.
We are celebrating our 20th year here at the Cheese Factory. And our dairy farm is a little over 40 years in our location. As she mentioned, we are a family business. Currently, we have about 13 full-time employees that are family, along with about 90 full-time non-family employees.
Wow. And so how did the farm progress from milk, from dairy farm, to cheese production and turn into this direct-to-consumer farm-to-table market?
Yeah, so we have been farming, my dad, along with his three other brothers, right? Our name is Crave Brothers. They are the Crave Brothers. They had our dairy farm and started with about 80 cows, and currently we are up to 2,000. So over time, when they first started farming, there was kind of a crisis, and a lot of farmers in the area wanted to get out of farming and milking and sold their cows, which eventually we kept purchasing, building our herd. When milk prices, we like to call it the commodity treadmill, meaning prices are going up and down, and nothing was ever really a guarantee like you see in most agricultural fields. So we decided that we wanted to add value to our milk by adding a farmstead cheese factory. So my dad went and got his cheese-making license down in Madison at the Center for Dairy Research. And they did a bunch of research together with my mom and my dad, went and looked at what kind of cheese was trending 20 years ago. And
Wow.
it ended up being fresh mozzarella.
Huh.
So our first cheese and our staple cheese right now is our fresh mozzarella. And we, back 20 years ago, both my parents didn't really know what fresh mozz was, right? Most people at the time would think of buffalo fresh mozzarella that I would find over in Italy, but it hadn't hit our markets yet. But it was a promising investment to start producing with having consumer demand. So that was actually our first cheese that we started making.
That's really cool. And I always have fresh mozzarella. And I wonder when I started doing that. I didn't know it was a trend or a trend 20 years ago. But that's really cool. And do you think that this farm to table model and mindset will increase in popularity in the next decade for both consumers and for farmers?
Yeah, I think if you look at the different generations, especially now with the younger generation, millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, we all seem to be more invested in finding where our food came from. So that's where the importance of, like you said, farm to table. We have control over what we feed our cows, what milk we use. Obviously, we know the protein and everything that comes with our consistency of our milk from our Holstein herd. And then putting that milk into cheese and making cheese and getting that to the end consumer. People can go and look exactly where our cheese comes from. And you see that with a lot of different companies, the traceability and just being transparent with showing consumers how something's made, where it's from, how does it get to you is really important. And I think that it's going to continue to be that way moving forward with just more transparency in the market.
Yeah, those are great points. And you've mentioned before that there are a few keys to success in dairy, and one being focusing on the science of dairy and the other being an animal advocate. So can you elaborate on those 2 points as you in terms of developing your farm and your model?
Yeah, sure. So we are a pretty advanced dairy farm, both with the agricultural model of producing our crops and regenerative agriculture, and where we source our different byproducts that we feed our cows. A fun fact is, so we live in Wisconsin. What is Wisconsin known for other than cheese?
Old fashions.
Beer.
Beer, yeah.
So there's a lot of beer production over in Milwaukee, like Miller. So we actually take the leftover byproduct that's left over from making the beer process that otherwise would go into a landfill. We actually take that and mix it into our rations that our cows eat.
Wow.
So using the different byproducts, we really do have control over that. And we work with the nutritionist, right? It's his profession to be able to tell us what to supplement into the feed for better health, better milk production, everything like that. So that's a big portion of what I like to talk about when I talk about science is, what we feed our animals. That's a big deal. And also, right, that comes into being an animal advocate as well, right? We want them to be healthy. If they're healthy, we're happy. If they're happy, they're healthy. So having a different feed and whatnot's important. And being able to share that with consumers, like, again, that comes back into transparency and people wanting to know more about where their food comes from. And farmers really do trust in science and technology. So building a reputation around that as well and using different resources.
Yeah, great points. And the technological advances in the dairy industry have not only allowed us to produce more milk with fewer resources, but have also created this whole cow comfort industry. So tell me how you've leveraged these advances to create an environment where happy cows, just like you just said, produce more milk for your farm.
Yeah, so we have groups occasionally come through here, mostly our customers or buyers from different stores that want to learn more about, our process and whatnot. So people always say when they come through, so we're just to add, we're not public. We don't offer public tours or have a storefront, unfortunately, but we do host our main buyers often just to kind of educate them and give them more information to share to their customers. So one thing that we get a lot when we go through the barns or we go to see the calf barn is people are like, if I was a cow, I'd want to be a Crave cow because they are spoiled.
Wow.
And they really are. So they have, our barns are climate controlled. So kind of like a window on the side of the barn. If it's cold, we'll put them so that they're down blocking the wind. And when it's nice in the summer, we'll put them down to let air go through naturally, along with fans. We have sprinklers and even these rotating back massage brushes that if they press up against it, starts spinning.
That's awesome. I would like to be a cow
pretty
there
fun.
too. Yeah. And you have a new rotary parlor, right?
Yes. So last spring, we put in a 60 cow rotary milking parlor. So if you picture a merry-go-round moving very slowly, the cow gets on at one side, facing forward, facing into the middle. So it's cool if you go in the middle, you can see all the cow heads looking at each other and socializing. So slowly goes around, and as it goes through the about 10-minute cycle, they're sanitized. The udder the milking machine's put on, and it actually senses when the milk is like a lower flow, and it'll come off automatically. And so then when it gets to the other side, it's sanitized again, and the cows are off. So we milk our animals 3 times a day.
Wow.
And a lot of the times they don't want to get off the merry-go-round, kind of similar to the sensation that you would see a dog in a car, right? Dogs enjoy sticking their head out the window and feeling that movement. It's soothing to them. So similar to cows on a rotary milking parlor.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what kind of barn did you have prior to the rotary?
We had a 2-sided, just stationary, where you'd bring in a group of cows, they'd line up, and the milkers would be lower, putting on and off the machine. So this is a lot more efficient, a lot more comfortable for our employees and the animals. And we can track all the data from how much milk each individual cow produced at each milking. So that helps with tracking different health trends, right? So if a cow is all of a sudden a lot lower than she has been normally. It's flagged, and that can sometimes be a teller for if she's starting to get sick or doesn't feel good or isn't eating enough. And then we can check in on that, because each cow has a individual cow care plan. So they eat certain things. If they're in a certain group, we try to pair them with cows in similar lactation to them, so that takes about the same time for them to eat. They eat the same different rations, and then they're all milked together as well. So just building efficiency there.
Yeah, that's great. And that makes, any bit of efficiency on a farm makes a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
And Crave Brothers prides itself on striving for sustainability. So currently your biodigester generates, which this is super surprising to me, generates enough electricity to power the farm, the cheese factory, and 300 area homes. So that's really incredible. How does that all work?
So about 15 years ago, right before this was a big trend with governmental funding and everything, we wanted to work towards supporting more of the future, especially different families can agree with this, as can other people. But families specifically, if you're going to be a multi-generational company, you're not only thinking about yourself the next 5 years, you'd be thinking the next 20 to 50 years.
Right.
So we were very forward thinking on installing our first methane digester. So we currently have 2 now. So basically, cows have waste, aka manure, and we use the manure to go into our digester, which is then heated, and it purposely releases the methane, which is then captured at the top. So picture a crock pot, right? It's has a big dome at the top. The dome is where the methane rises, and that's collected and then burned off to power a generator. And the generator is what turns it into usable energy for us, and then it goes back out onto the grid.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And then changing gears a little bit, being the marketing manager at the farm, you know a lot about telling your story in a way that educates, as you said before, and appeals to the consumer. What advice can you give to other farms when it comes to building their customer-facing message? I know there's a lot of fear there because they don't want, to inspire any animal activism on their farm or anything like that. So I think it's a little bit of an area that can be a bit fearful. So what's your advice?
Yeah, my advice would be to, accept that there are people that you're not going to be able to change everyone's mind. They may be set in their ways for whatever reason, but that's kind of their opinion. And if you have a group and maybe out of 10, one person feels that way, you're really going to miss out on educating the 9 that maybe don't know anything. Or you could even change the mind of that other person if you are able to efficiently tell your story. So I would say keep telling your story. Visuals are good. You can start as small as a Facebook page or just educational video on, hey, like, this is my cow. We like my cow. Her name is blah, 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 right? Make it so that the everyday consumer can see that, oh, they really do like the cows. They do take care of their animals and their farm's really clean, like anything like that, or using different resources. So if you do run into an issue with an animal activist, Ag Alliance is a good resource to reach out to, or just follow for different tips. They're a good resource. Or if you're in Wisconsin, Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin is very good as well. Both of those are on Facebook and Instagram. They also have a website too. So don't be afraid to reach out to people or even your neighbors. If you see someone doing a good job, ask them for advice. And most people are very, willing to help you in different circumstances. And we're all on the same team here too.
Yeah. Very good. And you said before you have 13 family members currently working within the operation. Family dynamics is a very important part of farm business, typically. So what advice can you give to other farm families about how to build a trusting, safe, and successful company with family in a time where, a lot of families can't even tolerate each other long enough for Christmas dinner, let alone work
Right.
together every day?
Yeah. Well, that is something that we take pride in. It hasn't been easy. It doesn't happen overnight. And the biggest advice that I could give is keeping the personal and the professional separate. If you're in a working environment, easier said than done, trust me. But that is something just to kind of remember, or, slightly remind the other people too that, hey, like I'm not your sister, I'm not your daughter right now. Like I'm your partner, and we're talking about this, not this. So if you're letting the personal issues get to you, that can be hard and really hard to come back from. So just kind of pausing and taking a moment to see, if there's a way around it. And there's also, again, other resources you can use. So for us, since we're multi-generational, right, it's one generation to the next. I'm a member of the second generation. We're actually working with a transition coach that kind of helps us put in place like weekly meetings that have a schedule and steps to follow and traceability and everything. And we actually have our annual meeting this week too. So if you're able to have, money to help put towards transition planning, that is huge, and it's really helped us with kind of determining roles and responsibilities and building that trust.
Yeah, I've had several transition or farm succession professionals on the show over the years, and it really is invaluable. And it's something that, if it's overlooked, it can destroy the entire legacy and destroy the entire farm. So that's really cool to hear that your family is proactive about that. And instead of treating a problem, it's really helping develop the flow of the farm, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I have one last question for you. Why do you personally serve the ag industry? What's your greatest passion? Why didn't you just, go to university and take off? What is it that brought you back to the farm?
Yeah, so funny you say that. When I first started college, I was actually a science education major. I wanted to be a science teacher. And so I've always kind of had that natural love for science. And agriculture has always been a part of my life, growing up here and everything. And it's just second nature just to understand how to represent different stories. So eventually I came to terms that I want to go back in the business. It never felt forced. It was my decision, and I was welcomed back gratefully, obviously. Very happy to be here, and great team. And so just kind of having the love for my family, all the hard work that has been put into place before I returned back here. It can only get better with the next generation coming in, new ideas and the same motivation, but just a different generation is really important. And that's just something I'm really passionate about is, like you said, the science behind agriculture and continuing to promote and communicate all the great things about the state of Wisconsin, the dairy and cheese industry, and, our operation.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And congratulations to all of you, because it's a really incredible farm and a great market. And like you said before about getting off the commodity ups and downs, right? And really finding your niche is so important.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
So where can people find you?
So if you're in Wisconsin, Sendik's, Metcalf Market, Woodman's, otherwise nationwide, you can check out Whole Foods Market. Otherwise, we sell online on our store, cravecheese.com, and we'll ship directly to you.
Wow. Even out of state?
Yes.
Wow. That's good to know.
Within the US.
Right. Yeah. Awesome. Very good. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Roseanne. It was great hearing about your farm and some of your advice to other farms out there. was awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
And thanks to all who are watching or listening. If you want to learn more, the links are provided in the show notes. And don't forget to subscribe to North American Egg Spotlight YouTube, Rumble, Telegram, or Egg Fuse channels. And the podcast is available on Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, Amazon, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And have a great day. Thanks so much for listening to today's Egg Spotlight episode, where we put the spotlight on people and companies doing great things for the agricultural industry. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or on your favorite podcasting platform, and give us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on YouTube and Rumble to see the video version of Ag Spotlight. Also, head on over to NorthAmericanAg.com to subscribe to our Industry Connect update newsletter. If you're interested in advertising opportunities, email us at connect@NorthAmericanAg.com. Thanks for listening. Our newest podcast by North American Ag is called What Color is Your Tractor? The stories behind the ag brands you love and the ag brands you love to hate. Hosted by me, Chrissy Wozniak. We take a deep dive into the companies that have built modern agriculture. Subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Go to whatcolorisyourtractor.com. Available on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts.